We are back. It's the Joe Holka Show presented by Line Movement. Week 11 stacks. A lot going on, obviously, throughout the week. Next week's going to be even crazier with Thanksgiving, but I know you guys want your stacks. This is one of the favorite videos that I get to kind of record each and every week. If you haven't checked out the video over on Al Smizzle's channel, I was in the cage match this week, which was a lot of fun. We'll get to that lineup in a second when we get to the lineup builder portion of the program. Per usual, we're going to go through my favorite stacks of the week, my top two earlier in the week for sure. So definitely come check out the stream later on in the week. If you're watching this video later, I'm live on Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern time. Go through each position. Definitely by that point of the week, we have a little bit more information about ownership, that sort of thing. So if you haven't checked out those streams, I would definitely do that. But I want to do a quick poll for those of you that are in the chat live Mondays and Wednesdays at 3 p.m. of course as well. Let's do this while we're here. Top game stack in week 11. Early lead for Atlanta, New Orleans. Interesting. Not a lot of Minnesota, Dallas love, huh? Okay. Minnesota, Dallas probably has the best pricing for game stacking. That's a big part of it, Sasha. Ugly QB, so maybe more of a mini stack situation there. First stack for week 11 is going to be the Houston stack. The same stack that was on my cage match team with Al Smizzle. Very similar, at least. So hear me out, guys. Let's move over to the NFL data table over at linemovement.com. So if you're new to this page, this is something we make available for free. Anyone, linemovement.com, resources tab, NFL data table. Each position, what I think is really important. Obviously, we have some Vegas data in here from blitzbet.eu. We'll have some ownership projections later in the week. Each position, what really matters from a data perspective as well. So at quarterback, one of the things you guys know I'm always really focused on is rushing ability. So for this first stack, Deshaun Watson to Will Fuller to Brandon Cooks. Who's the bring back for us, guys? I think you guys know where I'm going. We've been talking about him all week. Jacoby Myers, very cheap, $4,900. So let's dig into this a little bit. Deshaun Watson, he's $6,500. Honestly, I'm willing to kind of just throw out the windy game in Cleveland last week. Since Bill O'Brien has been fired, 320 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and 35 rushing yards. That is his average over those weeks. So I think the ceiling is still there for him. I think he bounces back in a big way against the Patriots this week. One of the things that I think is super valuable when looking at these rushing quarterbacks is that we really want to focus on teams that play a lot of man coverage on defense. So who plays more man coverage than anyone in the entire league? It's the New England Patriots, 56.6%. So what that means is the defenders are facing away from Deshaun Watson. So if he chooses to, he can take off and get some chunk yardage on the ground. So I like that idea for rushing quarterbacks overall. New England also tied for the 6th most rush TDs allowed to quarterbacks this year. So we're going to talk about the wide receivers to pair him with. It's pretty clear, guys. Brandon Cooks, 0.65 weighted opportunity rating. Let's go back over to the data sheet for a second. 0.65 weighted opportunity rating. It is top 10 on the slate. So it's an interesting spot for him overall. If you take out the wind game for Will Fuller, 0.53 weighted opportunity rating. So again, if you're new to that stat, it's a mixture between market share of air yards and market share overall. So really trying to target guys that are getting pushed targets down the field, but also have a large percentage of the team targets overall. So that is an insane amount of volume for two guys with Cooks and with Fuller. So I love that idea. The one thing that I do really like about this stack overall as well is that Duke Johnson might end up being super popular this week. And if that's the case, we leverage it with the passing options on this game. I think that's a great way to go about doing it. Jacoby Myers at 4,900. I've said it a couple times now this week, guys. We talked about it with Rich. We talked about it with Matt Harmon. He is the centerpiece of this New England offense right now. So I think he makes a perfect bring back at 4,900. If last week didn't convince you, I'm not sure what to tell you. The volume's been there. 7, 14, 10 targets over the last 3 games. 0.54 weighted opportunity rating. One of the biggest things, though, only Devontae Adams and Justin Jefferson higher yards per route run over the last 4 games than Jacoby Myers. I love it. Tight ends aren't doing anything there. James White's playing less, which obviously helps the wide receivers and their target share. I love the Jacoby Myers play at 4,900. He's way too cheap for the volume overall. So I think that's the stack that there's a few things that could go wrong, of course. If Duke Johnson ends up being good chalk, fine. Also, if Damian Harris ends up just running the ball a ton, that's a concern as well. But I think this game environment will be decent enough to where we can still attack the stack. It is a paced up game overall. Definitely bullish on Deshaun Watson at this price. He's just too cheap, guys. He's just way too cheap. He's 6,500 on a slate where we don't have some elite rushing ability from our quarterbacks. Am I saying Myers wrong? Myers. All right, I'll try and do better, Landon. My bad. You got it. Stack number 2. I really like Justin Herbert in this spot, guys. So if we're just looking at this Chargers and Jets game, there's enough value on the Jets where I think it still makes a ton of sense. And the target share, very clear for a guy like Justin Herbert. So let's move back over to the screen share for a second. One of the things that I really value at the quarterback position, even outside of average rushing yards, is completion percentage above or below expectation. Herbert, still top 5 in this metric. He's 6,800. He gives us a decent amount of volume on the ground, which is extremely important. And if we're going to pair it with a couple of wide receivers, we know exactly who to go to. Keenan Allen, if we wanted to add Hunter Henry to this, we absolutely could do that, because the tight end position is one that I almost always want to try and correlate with my quarterback if I can. It's a gross position, guys. So if we can just take that decision out of it, I think Hunter Henry is at least reasonable. You know what I mean? So top 6 weighted opportunity for Keenan Allen. His yards per route run, top 10. So very, very strong metrics across the board for Keenan Allen. You guys don't need me to tell you that. After kind of a slightly, I guess, underperforming situation, he's still 7,400. I think that this is a great spot to get back on him. The bring back, this might surprise you guys a little bit. It's kind of an approach that I saw Leone go with when he won the Thunderdome, the 5K entry a couple weeks ago with the Watts or a Mahomes stack. One of the things that you can do is bring it back with 2 value options on the other side. So one of the ones that I think is still super interesting overall is going after Pirine. Give you some savings at the running back position. We've already heard that he's going to be very involved down the stretch. Sure. Do you think Frank Gore is going to come in and take some touches? Maybe. But I like the idea of being on the passing game for Herbert. I don't think you have to triple stack him because he does give you some rushing ability, of course. But I like the Pirine on the other side of it. If you want to add Denzel Mims or just replace Pirine altogether with Denzel Mims at 3,300, he's a fantastic play as well. One of the things that, again, we're always kind of looking at weighted opportunity at wide receiver. But I do think that overall, Denzel Mims is just way too cheap at 3,300. Rashad Perriman, limited at Wednesday's practice. Mims is a second-round pick. 8 targets last week, 0.6 weighted opportunity over the last 3 weeks. Guys, that is elite. Devontae Adams, Adam Thielen, Terry McLaurin, Robbie Anderson, Keenan Allen, Denzel Mims right in the middle. And that's a 3-game sample. The volume is undeniable. And I don't understand why he's 3,300. I don't get it. So I think it's a very easy bring back on the other side with 2 guys that are extremely, extremely cheap. So let's move over to DraftKings now, guys, and we'll talk through a couple lineups that I could potentially throw in the Millionaire Maker, maybe some smaller field tournaments, all that stuff as well. But I should show you guys, we've talked about it a couple times now. This is the team that I will have against Al Smizzle in the cage match. This is a tournament team right here. Watson, Fuller, Cooks, bringing it back with Myers. Why can't I say his name? Myers. I have a mini stack with Derrick Henry and Mark Andrews. I went super cheap at my last running back slot with Pirine at 4,400. Obviously, he's going to be getting the majority of the carries there now that was reported. I think it's a nice price for him. DeAndre Swift at 6,400. He still feels too cheap to me. And the Washington football team to leverage his Joe Burrow stack on the other side. So Al went with more of a cash build. Dalvin Cook, Duke Johnson, Keenan Allen, Terry McLaurin, Deontay Johnson, Dallas Goedert, KJ Hamler, and Falcons D. Interesting. So I'm going to go back here so you guys can see where we're at in the poll right now. We're kind of 50-50. Who wins, the Watson team or the Al team? Obviously, just 1v1 here. That's how this cage match works. So very interesting. He did go naked Burrow, but he brought it back with McLaren in that game. So I think that's at least interesting. So let's see where you guys are at. I'll bring up the video or the lineups one more time. 2 is definitely safer. I'm with you on that, Crispy, but I'm trying to win. I did beat him last year in this, so I want to kind of double that one up. The cool part about it is we're doing this for charity for No Kid Hungry. If anyone was around during the summer, I streamed for an entire month, gave all the profits to No Kid Hungry, which was really cool. Al is a big promoter of No Kid Hungry as well. So $100, whoever wins is going to donate to No Kid Hungry either way. So that'd be cool. I'm trying to go 2-0. I beat them last year. I'm going to throw this team in some sort of tournament for sure. I don't know if it's going to be the Millie Maker yet. But I think I have enough correlation here to where like I'm already unique because there's going to be no Dalvin Cook on my team. Obviously a lot of chalk on Al's team with Joe Burrow at quarterback at 5,500. I think he'll be popular, but like just looking at these teams, I think I leveraged it really well. So let's think about where some of the ownership is overall and what kind of plays that we really like at the high end. So if we end up with a Mims team, I do like the idea of KJ Hamler, but we already have 3 wide receivers. So there's that. Running backs this week. I'm not sure if this team we can play Dalvin Cook. We could try. We'll see what happens if we put Dalvin Cook in here. We talked a little bit about this earlier, some of the bringbacks on the Dallas side. I want to do a mini stack with Dalvin. So what if we went CeeDee Lamb in the flex at 5K? Defense. What's a cheaper defense we like, chat? Washington at 2,900. I think they're super interesting. Maybe we just play Atlanta against Jameis at 23. Let's go Atlanta against Jameis for 23. Because if Jameis ends up being popular, that'll give us a little bit of leverage there. So we got Falcons D. So we still got 5,400 per spot here. So one of the other cheaper running backs that is in play. What about Ahmed for Miami? It's 4,800. I think he's a solid value play overall. And then we got 6,100 for tight end. Why did I leave tight end for last? So we don't have to play Ahmed, basically. At tight end, I do think Mark Andrews is in play. The other guy I really like at tight end is Dallas Goedert. What happens if we put him in? 7,100 now for a running back. We could play Miles Sanders. We could play Nick Chubb. We could go back to Mike Davis. I like the idea of Swift, though, at 6,400. So we put Swift in. What could we upgrade here? We could upgrade the defense if we really wanted to. We got 3K for defense now. We could get that gets us to Washington. I like that. Let's go with Washington D against Burrow, who I think is going to be really chalky. So maybe we get a decent amount of leverage on that as well. So we'll go with this for the first one. Second one, obviously we talked about Herbert. We talked about Keenan Allen. Talked about Hunter Henry on a slate where tight end is just not very fun. So we're just going to correlate it. I let's see what happens if we put in both of these guys. I don't think that's the worst idea because they're so cheap, right? P. Ryan and Mims, if that ends up capturing a decent amount on the Jets side overall, I don't think it's the worst idea. So our main stack, that is in place. Let's put Atlanta back in here because they're probably the cheapest defense, right? Falcons D. So we got a lot of salary to work with here. We do have Dalvin Cook on our other team. So what happens if we put in Derrick Henry? I don't really want to do a double tight end team, but I do like the correlation, the mini stack with Andrews and Henry, like you guys saw on that earlier team. So I'm going to take that out for a second. Aaron Jones, kind of a lower owned Green Bay against Indy. I know that Indy is a very strong defense. They also play a lot of zone defense. So these pass catch, we talked about this with Watson, man coverage kind of can lead to some higher rushing upside games for quarterbacks. Through the air, we kind of want to target zone defenses for these guys that are pass catching running backs. So I think that's kind of interesting if we did want to go the Aaron Jones route at pretty low ownership overall. I really like DeAndre Swift. You guys know that by now. I'm trying to think if there's anything. Yeah, splitting the workload with Williams, that's definitely a concern for sure. Someone said, are you worried that Herbert cut his hair? That is a big time concern. That is a big time concern. If we put Kamara in, is there a guy on the Atlanta side where we would get a decent amount of mini stack leverage on this one? That's the question. We don't know Ridley and his status yet at this point of the week. He is questionable. I think Zacchaeus is interesting as a cheaper play if he's not in. We could go back to Dalvin and see what other type of wide receiver we could get in there. If we put in Swift again, that should leave us with, so 5,800 at wide receiver. What do you guys think about, can we get to Cooper here? We can, 54. So mini stack with Cooper and Dalvin. We have our full Chargers and Jets game stack. We got Swift, Carolina. I think that's interesting. If you did want to go DJ Moore here, you could, like I mentioned, with the Swift mini stack. I don't hate that idea, just playing Dalvin naked. So you could do that. That's another option. And that gives you a little bit more flexibility with defense if you did go the Amari Cooper route. So I think that's interesting. I think one of those ones makes a really interesting Herbert stack overall. But guys, let me know in the comments what you think of both of these stacks. If you think I'm completely off base, definitely let me know that as well. I would love it. If you're here for the first time, you'd love, considering subscribing to the channel. Hit that like button before you get out of here. Of course, all of these do go up on Apple Podcasts as well. So toss me a rating and review. We're live each and every Monday, Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. Also Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. Join us for the big show on Sunday morning, guys. Lots of fun. I'll see all the Patreons over in the Discord. And then hopefully I can take down the cage match for the second time in 2 years. We'll be giving away $100 to No Kid Hungry, an amazing cause. So definitely check out that video over on Al's channel, and I'll see you guys next time.